Jr. is not in its watch list, contrary to the statement of former President Rodrigo Duterte, saying that, and we quote, when he was the mayor of Davao, he was shown evidence by Pdea that in the list, the name of the president was there. End of quote. Former President Duterte was mayor of Davao from 1988 to 1998, from 2001 to 2010, then 2013 to 2016. Pdea, on the other hand, was activated on July 30 of 2002. When the agency was activated, it established its National Drug Information System, or NDIS, which is still in existence today. The NDIS is the intelligence database of all drug personalities, gathering inputs from counterparts from both law enforcement and intelligence agencies.
Pursuant to its mandate under Republic Act 9165 and the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002, Pdea regularly conducts intelligence workshops in collaboration with other law enforcement agencies to update the NDIS. From its inception in 2002
And up to the present, President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos was never in our NDIS. It is worthwhile to note that when the former president took over in 2016, his administration came out with a list, which was then initially called the narco list, sometimes referred to as the Duterte or PRRD list. And upon continuing validation and revalidation, it became the Interagency Drug Information Database, or IDID. The name of President Marcos is also not in the said list. Based on all the foregoing facts, the Pdea asserts that President Marcos Jr. is not and was never in its watch list. And so our statement, Sir Simmons, thank you very much. Are there any further questions in regard to perhaps
what is reflected here. That's it. Yes, sir.
So, ibig sabihin, sa NDIS, even you were analyst, lahat pa rin yung pangalan mo, kung sakaling na-expect ka na,
Opo.
nalinis na,
Opo.
lahat yun sa database.
Yes.
Mo ako na.
Because ang mangyayari po doon, marireflect yung status mo. If you're either at large, or you're serving time, or as the case may be. But it's there. If it were there before, it will always be there. Okay. Mababago lang yung status mo. Or it could happen like, for instance, nag-wane yung illegal drug activity ng tao, then perhaps lagay ito as suspense file, but still there. But if you were never there, and it's very difficult to just arbitrarily add to that list, hindi po ganun yun, because it's an interagency effort. There's an intelligence procedure by which anyone can be added to that. Hindi ganun kadali po yun.
So, if raw information yan, hindi sa mas sa
Hindi.
even kahit snippet of information, hindi pa sa ibig sabihin po, confirm na mga personalities.
The classification of intelligence, meron yan, di ba? A1, A2, B1, B2. It's a long process. So as I said, this one requires validation from all participating law enforcement and intelligence agencies. And Pdea is the repository of the same.
Sir, who has access to the drug watch list in particular?
Well, as far as we're concerned, ma'am, it's for law enforcement consumption. I myself, even being with Pdea, I do not have immediate access to this. This is purely intelligence material, and it's on a need-to-know basis. So, not just any Tom, Dick, and Harry can access this.
Sir, how strong, paano ba hindi ito ma-influensyahan ng politika, sir, yung drug watch list natin?
Hindi po dapat. And it should never be the basis for addition or for inclusion. Dapat po yan validated intelligence.
Ang isa pang mayor na hindi kapasidad para makita listahan na ito, I think today is under the office of the President. The President pwede na makita yung listahan eh. But appear all of that with the level of mayor ay may kapasidad pa na makakuha po.
Good question. Perhaps, if we were to surmise the level of coverage ng authority ng isang alkalde o ng isang mayor, and if he were to speak with local authorities, he would only have access to personalities within the area of his political unit. And that would mean hindi niya makikita yung personalities outside of his political unit or local government unit. Ganun lang. If you're talking to local law enforcement, perhaps yung portion lang na makikita niya ay yung watch list pertaining to that locality, which perhaps can be shown by his local law enforcement if at all they need, ito, this is just hypothetical. For instance, si Hepe, kailangan niya ng dagdag na pondo upang matulungan sila na mahuli yung top 10 nila, which is actually the basis for clearing the watch list and submitting accomplishment reports to their national headquarters or even regional headquarters or provincial headquarters. And perhaps, on that note, doon lang. But tama po kayo, sir, it's a good observation. Depending on your level of authority, then you shouldn't have access to something outside of yung sphere of influence mo. Yes, sir.
Paano mo mag-complex ng mga confidential na mga dokumento nasa mga watches kasi yung bagay, kung walang sunod,
Ang watchlist po ay, gaya ng sinabi kanina po, it's highly secured document and it's a highly secured database. Hindi po yan basta-basta dapat nakikita ng kung sino-sino. In fact, ulit-ulit natin sinasabi, buwan-buwan, hanggat maaari po, ang ating intelligence workshops ay within the intelligence community lang at saka law enforcement. So it's highly improbable na basta kahit sino-sino pwede makakita po nito. And ang database po niyan nandito. Ang network po niyan ay patong-patong ang firewall at highly protected. Hindi naman din pwede basta-basta ma-access yan ng kahit sino. So, definitely, hindi po yan dapat lumabas at hindi talaga siya lumalabas. Especially under our new guidelines and under the new system being implemented here na, kumbaga, nag-improve pa lalo through the years. Na firewall ng IT and all. Bawal ka nga magdala ng thumb drive dito basta-basta. Everything. Our intelligence service. Yes, sir. Opo. Opo. At ang kausap nila, hindi, iba ang IT. Ang IT natin, sila yung gumagawa ng ating firewall and defense systems para hindi ma-infiltrate yung private network ng ahensya. Now, yung intelligence service, nasa kanila mismo yung database niyan. At ang kausap din lang po nila ay mga kapwa nila taga-intelligence kapag nag-update or nag-validate ng ating watch list.
Gano'n tayo siya nakiwala sa mga nagtatrabaho sa intelligence service.
Constant po ang vetting niyan, ang background investigation at ang counterintelligence yan. Kaya nga po tayo mayroong counterintelligence and security division dito sa ating ahensya. And sila rin ang counterpart ng mga nasa regional offices po natin ng mga intelligence units, ng operating units natin sa regional offices and even the provincial offices. So, at yung sistema po niyan, kapag kunwari, meron silang gustong ipavalidate, yun lang, kunwari, ikaw taga-Region 3, yung target personality, taga-Region 3, yun lang ang makikita ng regional office na yun. Hindi nila pwede basta-basta ma-access din yung hindi naman concerning yung region nila. So, ganun po ang style dyan.
Sir, kasi nagsimula yan, kaya nakamit ang mga dokumento kung talagang sigurado hindi kayo lalabas. May dinuga si Salita, tawag doon sa Tungkul. So, nagtuloy-tuloy na yun na isang mga task official na so doon na lang tagtungkol simula. Kaya natanong sila kung paano nag-pick ang monitoring sa mga configuration document na hindi kailangan sila.
Well, basta sa atin po, naninindigan tayo. Sino man yung tinutukoy ng mga kung sino yan. Saka, ginamit pang term, pulburon. So, lalong mahihiwagaan tayo ano ba tinutukoy po nila. As far as we're concerned, yung specific na personality na pinag-uusapan po ngayon, particularly yung Pangulo, wala po sa ating listahan. Yes, sir.
Sir, is the Pdea in position to recommend to the President conduct drug test once and for all, mawala yung haka-haka? Because it is a former President who accused a President and sitting President.
Good question, sir. Of course, tandaan po natin sa ilalim ng ating batas ngayon, ang drug test po ay dapat voluntaryo ginagawa ng isang individual, regardless of whomever you are. And you don't even have to be an elected official or someone in power. Anyone, even a common citizen cannot be compelled to undertake a drug test. It has to be voluntary. But then again, nasa tao naman po. And good thing you asked, sir, because sometime before the election, if I remember right, it was in November of 2021, our president, in fact, submitted voluntarily to a drug test to a Department of Health accredited facility, and the result thereof was negative. And, I mean, ganun na po yun. Nilabas po nila. In fact, yung drug, I don't know if you were there, Sir Ma'am, pero hawak po ng isang kumakatawan sa kanya yung drug test at pinakita po sa media. In fact, kasabay halos po nun, some other candidates back then sought drug test dito po sa ating ahensya naman. Among others, no? There were a few. While hindi po natin sila tinanggihan back then, the Pdea Forensic Laboratory, just like its counterparts in the other agencies like the NBI and the PNP, its primary function is supposed to be to conduct forensic examination on confiscated pieces of evidence, to conduct drug tests on arrested personalities, and sa amin, dahil kami po ay within the agency, and in fact, we just had our surprise drug test last week. Yun po ang primary mandate. It is not actually a Department of Health authorized or managed testing facility ng DOH. But yes, we have the capability. But the primary mandate is for forensics, not for authorized drug testing under the law. Pero, to answer your question, sir, a drug test by any individual, regardless of stature, must be voluntary. So, and I'm sure perhaps, nasa sa kanila na yan. If, I'm sure the President will gladly oblige, but it all depends. Hindi naman po, kasi na-drug test na siya dati. And besides, wala nga po siya sa listahan namin. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Pwede magtanong doon sa fentanyl. Kung kasama ba siya doon sa listahan ng mga prohibited drugs na nasa inyo yung listahan?
Fentanyl is a regulated drug by virtue of the United Nations schedule po. I think it is one of those being used for pain management and it is regulated. But again, sir, unfortunately, I'm sorry I cannot further comment on it because there is, we're not privy to any details about any such statements on fentanyl.
So yun ay pwedeng gamitin o bilhin lang kapag ka prescribe ng isang licensed physician.
Let me put it this way, wag na lang yan. It's just like Valium, for instance. Valium is used, it's a benzodiazepine. It's used to calm yung mga pasyente po na nangangailangan ng gamot na yun. It's similarly situated with that. Just like morphine, just like codeine, yung mga pang pain management. Ganyan po yan. They're all in certain schedules of the UN Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances. May mga uri ng dangerous drugs po kasi na regulated ng batas na may medical application at kailangan po ng reseta ng isang doktor na lisensyado ng Pdea with an S2 license in order to administer yung gamot po yan.
Is it 100 times the morphine? Yung effect mo yan, lakas na.
I am not privy to, I'm sorry ma'am, it needs a medical practitioner to explain that. But it falls within the same category as we do not have access to data at the moment, sir, to make any declarations about it. Well, I'm not privy to data, sir, dito sa batas sa bansa as far as we're concerned. We don't. So we cannot make any such declarations pertaining to fentanyl. I'm sorry.
So, last July 3 last year, nagkaroon kami ng campus interview kay DG British Gas. Ang statement niya ay emerging control na fentanyl, which is used as a party drugs, sabi niya.
Ganito yan, sir. Nilinaw po niya, it was actually a concern raised by counterparts from another country nung nag-meeting po kami. And do remember, it was raised by a counterpart from another country. He was actually misquoted nung time na yung anniversary natin. The actual statement was that during a meeting with foreign counterparts, that subject was mentioned. That in other countries, there is an alarm on possible abuse of that drug.
Not on particular Philippines.
Not in the Philippines, sir. So, nabanggit niya lang. As far as that drug is concerned, there are alarms raised in other countries. As far as we're concerned, hindi naman po. In fact, mas madalas pa rito yung, I have had experience just erstwhile as former director of our compliance service, which is our licensing and regulatory arm. We have had cases involving other drugs na yung nagsiself-prescribe, especially during the pandemic, yung pasyente, at pineke yung reseta ng kanilang attending physician in order to acquire such illegal drugs or dangerous drugs for supposedly for medical use. But there are different types of drugs. It's not this. Yun po yun.
For clarification, wala kang nahuhuli na gumagamit illegally ng fentanyl.
Not that we know of here in the Philippines. In fact, as I said, there is no data. I don't have access to any data to make any such declaration. So I'm sorry po talaga. We cannot comment on such statements pertaining to that drug. We're only limited by what we experience here, which is, ayun nga, ako po. In several times that I have had investigated cases involving yung unlawful prescription or self-prescription or faked prescription, it's another type of drug. And normally it's yung benzodiazepines, Valium and its other variants. Kasi it's not really over the counter, but provided you are able to present a seemingly valid prescription for it. And during the pandemic po kasi nag-ease sila sa restrictions on the yellow prescription pad and the way of counter-checking it. So, ang dami po pumupunta sumasama sa ating practitioners, ay dumudulog sa ating practitioners, complaining of faked prescriptions. I think natunghayan din ng ating Pangulo ng press corps yan ilang beses nung nag-iimbestiga yung sila attorney ko dyan ng compliance service tungkol dyan. Kasi nga, it became a trend, especially during the pandemic. It has to be prescribed by a doctor. And sorry, this is not just about fentanyl, kasi nga walang trend yan dito sa Pilipinas. I would like to, we're not rebutting any statements whatsoever, but I'm just trying to clarify that if you refer to our Director General's supposed statement back about a year ago, it wasn't about warning about such abuse here, but he was told by a foreign counterpart. Okay, so yun lang po yun. Pero any dangerous drug that has medical application requires the prescription of an S2 licensed doctor using a yellow prescription pad regulated by the Department of Health. And the dispensing pharmacy must keep strict records thereof, which is subject to spot checking every now and then by our Pdea regulatory compliance officers. So ganun po ang sistema dyan.
Available service Philippines for medical purposes, medical use.
I'm not sure if it's being prescribed. I have not encountered any. But maybe it is. Maybe. Depending. Walang iniwan po yan doon sa mga pasyente na gustong gumamit ng umano ay medical cannabis. And then their attending physicians work out the compassionate permit, special permit through the Food and Drug Administration. Bagamat hindi pa nga actually included yung medical cannabis sa ating nire-regulate. Because under our law, cannabis is a regulated substance. Or I mean, a prohibited substance.
Sir, tama ba ako ng pagkakait? Kung sino man ang gumagamit ng fentanyl, kailangan ng approval from the office? Aside,
No, sir. No. Hindi po yun. Ang sino man pong nangangailangan ng gamot na regulated ng batas, at dahil considered po siyang dangerous drug, ay nangangailangan ng doktor na lisensyado po ng ahensya upang mag-dispense nun, at ang gamit po niyang reseta ay ang isang yellow prescription pad na regulated naman po ng DOH. And again, sir, it is not just limited to that particular drug na binabanggit po ninyo. It's for all. Like for instance, kailangan ng, yun nga po, kailangan ng morphine para sa isang pain patient. It's the same thing.
Parang narinig ko si kanina, dito ay binanggit kayo, kailangan duman pa rin sa regular na pagsusuri ninyo. Ano yun?
I'm sorry, sir.
Spot checking.
Ang lahat po ng mga pharmacies or dispensing establishments, sine-check po yan ng ating regulatory compliance officers on the dispensation para dapat magtali yung binenta nila dun sa nakalista sa nire-report po nila sa atin. Sir, I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't be in a position to make any comments on that, sir. Again, we only called this press briefing in order to clarify that the President is not in our watch list. This is not in any way to discuss any other topics, so I humbly implore you to please not quote us on the topic because we did not call this briefing in order to discuss that. But if you would ask us about the agency's regulatory compliance, it's in place. Regulatory compliance functions, it's in place. Not just for any particular drug, but for all drugs that are covered by law, that are included in the UN United Nations Single Convention on Narcotics, Drugs, and Psychotropic Substances. Yes, ma'am.
For public information na lang, sir, yung drug watch list, di ba po?
Yes, ma'am.
Yung intelligence na po nakaka-access.
Yes, ma'am.
But of course, for the people who don't know, paano kung kapit-bahay lang yung drug addict, they want to know the drug watch list. May nabanggit kayo na area, pero kumbaga hindi ba?
Ano po yan eh? Nagsisimula. Sorry, mama. Sorry, cut you short. Normally, the generation of the watch list requires the participation of the barangay. Kaya nga po may tinatawag na badak. So, kailangan fully functioning po yung badak upang matulungan ang mga law enforcement and intelligence agencies to generate the proper watch list, and the information must be validated. Kasi nga po, katulad ng nakaraang eleksyon, nagrekomenda ang Dangerous Drugs Board na may certain activities falling under the Barangay Drug Clearing Program that will be suspended for the duration of the elections, kasi it can and may happen na yung katunggali sa politika ng isang kapitan o ng kandidato, mamaya siyempre at a whim, isasali dun sa watchlist, isasabihin paakyat, although hindi naman na-validate eventually, pero nakapirwisyo na lang. Dahil initially, binanggit ang kanyang pangalan at sinali doon. So kaya nga po dapat, subject to constant validation and checking in tandem with our counterparts in the barangays and in law enforcement and intelligence. Kasi kung user lalo na po, stigma-free dapat ang treatment niyan, because the users are supposed to be victims and must be given proper intervention. Hanggat maaari nga, kung kaya sa may barangay drug, community-based drug rehabilitation program, doon lang. Not all users, especially, will require facility-based intervention. So, yun yung point. Yes, but it contains all personalities, regardless of stature. So, meron dyan yung nakalagay bilang member ng drug group, leader ng drug group, or hindi naman po naka-segmentize yan eh, na kunwari, itong listahan na ito, puro ganito lang, halo-halo na po yan. Magkakasama yan. Hindi lang po politiko doon, marami, pati iba't ibang personalidad. Okay. Sir, honestly, I haven't seen it. So, it's subject to constant validation through our workshops. Recently, katatapos lang din ng intelligence workshop, National Intelligence Workshop on Illegal Drugs ng Pdea. So, I'm sure na-update ulit yan. Kasi, ano yan eh, nakikita ko may arrested na, so ilalagay mo sa ibang category yun, arrested. So, lahat ng arrested dito, lahat ng at large, kaya nga mayroon yung watch list para ito yung priority na kailangan nating mahuli. Kasi it is a good indicator of success parameters. Kung makikita nyo na yung top 10 ng bawat probinsya, ng bawat municipality, ng bawat region ay na-address po natin. It's a success indicator on top of yung mga, kung may nakukuha tayong tonelada o daang kilo ng droga. Kasi kahit na nakukuha natin yung, kung hindi natin nakukuha yung mga main players, diba? Like for instance in law enforcement and our counterparts in the police, kailangan dyan yung top 10 wanted, diba? Nakukuha rin. So, ganun din po kami, yung top 10 na priority sa list ng kailangan maaresto upang mapigil yung illegal drug activities in a certain locality. That's the basis for our watch list. Sure. Any further? Sure. Pabili po pala kami ng merienda. Apologies. Pasensya na talaga. Okay na. Thank you very much. Sorry for being late.
Hindi baka critic might say na, uy, ano yung expected sa Pdea is
Under the office of President.
Sir.
Yes,
Our agency is mandated to uphold the law.
Napamulitan yung party.
Our agency is mandated to uphold the rule of law. Yan naman po ang mandato namin. And hindi naman po yan na ibig sabihin na just because we're under the office of the President, we will favor the President. Because the facts are clearly stated. Wala po siya sa listahan, even with the previous supposed narco list. You know fully well, ang dami pong nasali doon. And in fact, if I do remember right, critics have called out na nung umpisa, nung unang pinagbabasa yun ay may mga tao doon actually po na pumanaw na or nahuli na, hindi at nabanggit pa rin ang kanilang pangalan. That is why it has been sent back to the law enforcement and intelligence agencies for continuous validation. And that's why it evolved into what is now called the Interagency Drug Information Database. Para po mas proper yung treatment niya. Kasi nga, nung una po, medyo kumbaga naging smorgasbord na lang siya, and then every now and then, pinababasa during speaking engagements. Of course, we respect the treatment of the previous administration in regard to such list, but we have done our homework with it in order to streamline such list and check and double check the involvement of the person. In fact, it's still an ongoing effort until now, sir. And it's quite challenging because there were some there na, how do you call it? Until now are crying foul because their name is there. And they are clamoring for adjudication. Kasi nga, apektado yung, maybe especially those who have a political career. And election is just around the corner by 2025. So I think there are those who are clamoring for adjudication because their name is still there in that other list, yung I did.
Actually, kayo pabor sa arbitrary voucher. Sabi mo nga, hindi siya
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But as we already mentioned, sir, these are intelligence materials. And so it is only supposedly for the consumption of law enforcement and intelligence to aid us in pursuing or discharging our mandate. It is by no means supposedly for publication.
Hindi naman masyadong mabilis ginawa yung pag-verify.
Hindi po.
May modelo naman yung magamitan.
Definitely, sir. It's a database. If you click a name or any part thereof, lalabas na yan. Eh, from 2002, from our inception, sumunod yung creation ng NDIS, which has been in existence for almost as long as the agency has been in existence. So we're almost 22 now. Suffice it to say, magta 21 years na rin po yung database namin. Kasi hindi naman yung kaagad na-create siguro upon inception noong July 2002. But I would surmise it came a bit later, but it's there and it's been updated. It's still being updated until now. So for those na nagko-cover po sa atin ng pagkatagal katulad niyo po, si Pangulo, alam niyo naman kung gaano kahirap yung pag-ayos-ayos natin yan para talagang hindi pakakaingatan na hindi dapat lumabas. Kasi magiging useless yan pag lumabas. Diba? Otherwise, titigil na yung mga supposed natin huhulihin, maglalaylo. Wala na. Paano natin mahuhuli?
Siyempre pa ano ba tama ito yung susurin ng Pdea? Ano tama yan? Ano ba na zombie list?
Hindi ko alam, sir. Wala pa tayo na-encounter na incident yan dito. So we are not in a position to comment on it talaga.
Kasi naalala ko siya nung nagkaroon ng regulation ng Pdea SES. Kaya yung pinag-uusap sila na aling na ini-injection.
Ano yun, sir? GBL yun? GBL saka GHB po yun. Ano ba yun, sir? Gamma hydroxybutyric acid saka gamma butyrolactone. Yun yung mimic ecstasy noon na sinasabi niyo.
Sir, last na lang.
Sir.
Kahit na 30 second there soundbite lang, maganda yung sinabi niyo mas kanina na yung Pdea watch list ay hindi basta makikita ng isang local government official sa labas ng kanyang area of jurisdiction o sa labas ng kanyang basahan.
Opo, totoo po yun. Ang national watch list, hindi yan maa-access ng isang nasa local. Kasi nga po, yung makikita lamang nila ay the drug personalities operating in their respective area. So for instance, kung ikaw ay isang alkalde, ang maa-access mo lamang ay yung idudulog sa iyo ng local law enforcement na gusto nilang gusto nilang ihingi ng tulong po sa inyo upang mahuli nila siya dahil sila nasa priority list ng lokalidad. So, if you're pertaining to any personality outside of someone's locality, hindi mo makikita yun. So, but then again, as far as we're concerned, we are again clarifying that as far as the allegations are concerned, we maintain and we would like to categorically state that our president is not in the watch list.
Ano